What is truth? Is the question I've just asked a question of logic, semantics, knowledge, metaphysics, or none of the above? While you're thinking about that, I'm going to tell you a story. My uncle from America, who I didn't see very often, once visited me in my college rooms. And he was most amused to discover a book in my bookcase called What is Truth? And here it is, by C.J.F. Williams, which is 102 pages, including the bibliography and index. It was just ridiculous, he thought, that a philosopher could think that they could answer that incredibly important question in a book of 100 pages. And it showed to him the triviality of academic philosophy, that it should take that view of truth. I actually do think that the editors at Cambridge University Press who published it had a little bit of a laugh as well. I think they were very much aware of the fact that they were being a little bit provocative in publishing this book. And it's actually a very good book. Now, I haven't forgotten the question I asked at the beginning, but as you'll see, this book is very relevant. Because the line that C.J.F. Williams took was that the word, or the predicate, is true, is a very important notational or semantical device which enables us to talk about the truth of propositions in general. I mean, if I just want to talk about the truth of one proposition, I don't even have to use the word truth. I can just say, is the Syrian government really using chemical weapons in Syria? I don't have to use the word true. But I could also say, is anything that President Assad has said true? And now I'm talking about, or referring to, any of the number of propaganda statements that have issued from the Syrian government, and raising a question about all of them. So it's very useful to be able to use that. Predicate is true. And you might not be so surprised that Williams manages to do this in around 100 pages. There's quite a bit of technical, I won't say expertise, because that gives the wrong impression. You don't have to be a great expert to understand the logical terminology of it, but I'm not going to go into that now. There are a few tricks, a few logical tricks. As it turns out, and this is rather ironic, subsequent philosophers have questioned the strategy that Williams used. And in fact, there's a far more widely read book by Paul Horwich called, I think, just Truth, which challenges one of the assumptions of Williams's argument. This is just a debate in academic philosophy. It's not important to us. The important point is that there are a number of academic philosophers, in quite a large number, who would say that there's no deep epistemological, metaphysical question about the nature of truth. It's just a logical question. Truth is just a device for generalizing over propositions and talking about the question whether they are the case or not the case. Or, as Paul Horwich says, it's a logical property. It's not a real property. There's nothing deep about it. It's just a very important notational device that we need in our language. Well, I guess that that's all very well, but it really does completely miss the point. Because we have this powerful notational device, we can raise precisely the deep epistemological and metaphysical questions that we want to raise about truth. In my last video, I talked about the reality of the past. And I raised the question whether the truth of a proposition about the past exists in cases where we don't have any method of verifying or falsifying the proposition in question. Can truths exist independently of knowledge? That's a very sensible question, or it seems to be. But we need that notational device in order to raise the question. So it is actually very important that we are able to define truth in a way that enables us to go deeply into the questions of metaphysics. So what is truth? It's a logical question in the sense that we want to know how this word or phrase functions in the language, but it's also a deep epistemological and metaphysical question because it concerns reality. Armed with this notational device, we are able to raise that deep question. But that's only the start, and this is where things get really interesting. Most of the time, when people debate the question, what is truth, they get it wrong. They confuse it with a question about knowledge and skepticism. They assume, wrongly, that when we are asking what is truth, we are looking for a criterion of truth. We're looking for some kind of formula or method or I don't know what that applied to any question would yield an answer. And it's in that sense that when Jesus Christ was asked by Pontius Pilate, "Who are you?" and Christ responded, "I am the way, the truth, and the life, and there's no other way to God except through me," he was claiming to be some kind of ultimate source of truth. Obviously, not everyday truths, but, the deepest truths about existence and why we are here, etc. So that would be a criterion of truth. Ask Jesus, and assuming that you get an answer, you get the truth. But that isn't the really deep question. I mean, it's extremely unlikely that anyone would seriously propose a criterion of truth. And yet, we are deeply concerned with the question, what truth is? And the example of the reality of the past was an example of that. What kind of being or existence do truths have? How are we to conceive of what a truth is, apart from the question how we find out the truth? We don't want to say that the only truths that exist are truths that we can find out, because that would be equivalent to saying there's no truth at all. There's simply what we believe. Surely, unless you're some kind of idealist, truth is out there. It's independent of us. We don't create the truth. I mean, it's a real question. Does the earth go round the sun, or does the sun go round the earth? Is the earth flat, or is it round? These are questions of truth. We can't make them whatever we like. Reality, the universe, decides what's true and what's false. Truth is real. But of course, there are many areas where it's much harder to make that claim. Much harder to say that truth is real. Questions of history. Questions where rival interpretations come into play. But I'm not going to get into those complications, because the central question, the absolutely central question, is what we are doing when we make a statement. And this is one of those places where philosophy gets extremely difficult, because on the one hand it seems just completely transparent that when I say Syria is using chemical weapons, or the cat is on the mat, or Obama is President of the United States, or I am doing a YouTube video. My statement matches up or corresponds or fits or applies to the world. I'm putting forward some kind of a picture or description of the way things are. And that description fits or doesn't fit, as the case may be. I mean, maybe Obama isn't President of the United States. Maybe it's all a complete fake. Maybe somebody else is president. As unlikely as that may seem. But we know what it means. You know, President Obama is president if, and only if, it is true that President Obama is President of the United States. There's a fact, and there's the statement that we make. So when we make a statement, we are somehow aiming at something out there. Aiming at reality. And we just see it in the statement itself. We know what we're saying. But this is the point. We don't know. All we have is a linguistic expression, linguistic behavior. We are performing. We're uttering sounds. And we naturally interpret that in a certain way. But the interpretation that we give of it is completely tautological. President Obama is President of the United States. That's just a truth. The cat is on the mat is true, if and only if the cat is on the mat. Snow is white is true, if and only if snow is white. Now you know, except that you don't know. You don't know what you are doing when you make those statements. We can't get behind our words. It seems as if, I'm using words now to express this to you. But what I really would like to do is get behind the words and see what it is that I'm doing when I use those words. And this is the paradox, that we have a sense or a feeling that there's something more to say, but we can't say it because we have to use words to say it. Which is why it can sometimes be useful to just change the game a bit. And this is what Wittgenstein attempted in his philosophical investigations. He starts off with what he calls language games. He basically says, look, forget about the way we normally use language, or forget about the idea of a proposition, a statement, truth, falsity, etc. Just imagine a very, very simple scenario where two builders are building a building, and one issues words or orders, and the other one obeys. Or they're not even orders. He's just uttering words, and the other one does stuff. One builder says slab, and the other builder gets a slab. Imagine that we are in that position with the language that we have now. That we're just making sounds, and those sounds are causing other people to do stuff. We don't know why they do stuff. We don't understand the mechanism of it. We don't understand semantics or metaphysics or anything of that nature. All we know is the facts. We use words. And if you start in that position, that we're just using words, we're making sounds and other stuff is happening, then you really don't know what the hell you're talking about when you talk about things being true. Because that's completely abstract. That's completely removed from the actual situation of language use. Now, I'm not sure where to take this thought. I mean, in the past maybe I have been sure, or thought I was sure. But it seems to me now as if it's like something at the corner of one's vision that you cannot quite describe. You can half see it. To make a statement is to aim at truth. But when we try to say what it is we're doing, we just repeat ourselves. When I state that the cat is on the mat, I mean the cat is on the map. When I state that President Obama, now this is tautological, isn't it? President Obama is President of the United States. When I state that Obama is President of the United States, I mean that Obama is President of the United States. We're just repeating ourselves. And what we wanted to do was say something substantive about what truth is. Remember that it wasn't a question about how we know what's true. The question was, what are we doing? Or what do we think we're doing when we're trying to state a truth? All we can do is repeat what we just said. And whenever you're tempted in philosophy to make a tautology sound like something significant, then you should be very wary. This is something Wittgenstein was very much alert to. That we invent all sorts of stories about what we think we're doing. We completely misunderstand the logic of our own language. We completely misunderstand what it is that we are doing. We take a simple notational device, which I've already explained, and we invent all sorts of meanings for it. And of course that's true, but it doesn't alter the fact that something deep is going on. And the problem isn't that, we can't come up with the right theory. The problem is we don't even know how to state the question, because we can't get behind our own words. And I find that very baffling.